amount of time people spend searching for and looking for documents all over the organization, in email, in folders, in virtual storage, cloud storage. I mean, it's crazy the level, the extent to which we have unstructured content all over the place. So companies are getting to the point where they're realizing that this is a huge risk. Certainly publicly traded construction firms have already begun to tighten up that process. But the private ones have been a little slow in getting there, only because I think they focused their IT spend on functional applications like estimating, like project management, like ERP, like HR, and so forth. And they kind of, wouldn't say ignored, but the idea of content management was perhaps not foremost in their mind. And now with just the explosion of digital content, that's now a priority.
Excellent. Thank you both so much. So moving on to the next trend, let's discuss virtual construction. And Denise, I know that this is another big one for you, so let's dive in.
Sure. Now that we've built our virtual construction department to be more than just modeling, virtual construction has become a huge selling point for Clune. We've definitely won work because of our virtual construction department. It serves as one source of truth for our clients. If they're not physically around or don't want to come into the job site, then we have a way for them to still be involved in the nitty-gritty of their project. Virtual walkthroughs are also critical for a layperson who might be a stakeholder and wants to see how money is being spent and what everyone's doing. This keeps them in constant connection with the project's progress. They get up-to-date information all the time. With virtual construction, our clients are getting more than a static 2-week look ahead with progress photos. Instead, the construction team is taking amazing photos and using AI to stitch them together, or taking 3D scans of a space. This creates a 360-degree view of a space that's much more dynamic than a static photo. Decisions can be made quickly together with the whole team instead of just looking at a photo. Instead, they can look at the same view of the space altogether. Instead of waiting for samples to arrive in the mail, we can work with the design team to overlay finishes on existing views so clients can virtually see what some of their decisions will look like. From a marketing perspective, it's always nice to have a virtual construction piece sell as a service because it's something tangible that shows what we can do. If a prospective client wants to see another space that we've done, we can take them right to it at any time.
That's a wonderful example, Denise, and definitely a trend worth exploring. All of these discussions so far today have led us to the final trend that we want to discuss. Who within a construction company is best suited to help roll out some of these initiatives? And Christian, I know you have some insight on what that role might entail.
Sure, thank you. I am excited about this particular topic and trend. Probably about 10 years ago, I would say, the notion of a business analyst was seen as an overhead item, a luxury, and construction firms didn't have very many. Today, more and more companies are actually hiring business analysts. More often than not, I would say they hire from within rather than from outside, but some are doing it from outside. These are individuals who basically want a new challenge. They know the organization, they know construction processes. They are tech capable, savvy. They aren't programmers necessarily. They can communicate well between IT, software vendors, the user community. They're task-oriented, they're organized, they can work with schedules. And this is basically, these are teams or individuals who can provide leverage in an implementation or a deployment to make sure that everything gets done when you're rolling out a new time card system or a new component in the modeling solution or a project management capability to the field. So the business analyst is basically a level of assurance that your investment in technology is actually going to provide significant returns. They can even help build out training material, testing material if need be. I mean, they just have a variety of roles. And yes, I would say it is a full-time role. And the number of business analysts you have is probably commensurate with the size of the organization.
I think that's a great idea, Christian. Clune doesn't have a business analyst on staff yet, but we have rolled out an initiative that has worked pretty well for us. We started a tech testing committee made up of about 80 volunteers across the company who sit on various committees to test different technology that the company is considering. For example, somebody might be on an Apple committee, so they would test out the iPhones and iPads and different software updates that come out. We have some teams testing different software outside of that. Some teams are looking into augmented reality or virtual reality. We have people testing patches for ERP and CRM systems. If the technology is doing what we hope, then the committee can push it out to the masses and talk about how much they like it and why they use it. We're building internal champions this way. This is something that helps ease the fear of trying something new, and our employees know that someone has already used it and understands how it works, so they can always go to someone on the committee for help.
So Denise, let me take this opportunity to just differentiate a little bit, because I think that's an excellent example and an approach. I would differentiate the business analyst from what we normally term a super user, somebody who's really strong in a product, one product or another. I won't mention any names, but and their role is to be the champion inside the organization of that product. They help with training, they help with rollout, they can help with documentation, but they're all about that product. Business analyst is a more generalized role that is really process oriented. Goal is efficiency and getting information in the hands of the people that need it, and they may span multiple IT projects. So it sounds to me like you've got a little bit of a hybrid of both power user and business analyst, which I think is certainly probably going to be very successful.
Yeah, and just jumping in here, it's kind of interesting conversation. We did a different survey, actually, a couple months even before this one, and it was asking about concerns with purchasing new software, and the number one concern, it wasn't cost, it was the implementation. Their main concern was, how long is this going to take? Do we have the resource to do it? And so that is, whether it's with the analysts or the power users, super users, it's a big focus, and a big opportunity to make sure that you implement tools and implement them well.
Those are all great examples. Thank you all so much. At the end of the day, it all comes down to making sure people will use the technology that you put in place. Before we move on to our Q&A, there's one final topic that I want to bring up for attendees. For companies that haven't started to change the dynamic, as you explained it, Christian, do you have a sense of why they might be hesitating? What's the first step to moving forward?
I think I will share a couple of ideas in this point. One is the notion of alignment. It's very important that technology align with business process and objectives of the business itself. Nobody should be automating just for the sake of automating, because it becomes too overwhelming. We lose focus. So self-perform contractors, mechanical, drywall, etc., need to be focused on field productivity and material management. So let's invest heavily in those functions, more so than, say, contract management, or inventory management, which they may not have. So align your tech investment with the business strategy would be one key point. I think you have to pace the organization